That was really gay, and I wear product in my hair, so you know I'm gay. Check out Crew, $15 for some forming paste. It'll get you where you need to go. My name's Max Reynolds, but you can call me Daddy. That's what a lot of people call me. No one calls me that. In all seriousness, I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! When I was in first grade, and my friend Charlie had these starter decks. Well, he had one. He had the Blue Eyes one, and I wanted to beat him. So naturally, we took the Dark Magician, and that was a mistake. That monster is incredibly weak. Not much attack going on there. We played very casually. It wasn't very. We didn't really know the rules, I guess. No one really did. We invented all sorts of different ways to play the game. We had labyrinth duels. We invented the monster stars on the cards. If you had like 4 stars, you can move it 4 spaces forward and get closer to your opponents. Their life points. Yeah, that was a fun game. It never really ended. We made up the rules as we went. And I had the cards and I watched the show a lot. Shout out to GX for being the best one. So I picked up Frog Monarchs day of, and I played it for about 2 years. 2 years. Probably a year and a half, 2 years. But I had it on and off. And I had infinite different variants of this deck. I had a Frostosaurus Monarch deck with Illusionary Snatcher. You tribute summon Frostosaurus, and you chain Illusionary Snatcher, and you make Evil Czar Solda. But you tag for 5,000 first, of course. It was a combo. I had a Synchro version with Quick Draw Warrior, which made Drill Warrior, which you could use to add back your Monarchs. I had a Ghost Trick version, that was pretty fun. But all that kind of segued into me wanting to be more competitive and play real decks, because I just was losing to the real decks at the time. There was like plants, and then there's dragons, and Karakuri were pretty good, so I wasn't really having fun losing all the time. So I picked up Inzectors, and that was a really childish deck, but I enjoyed it. My initial mentor, his name was Daryl Gessler. He topped like 2 SJCs, I believe. He's one of the first people to use Solemn Judgment, so that was really cool. I was really happy that he took me under his wing. He'd come to my house every Friday, and we would just play. And he played Dino Rabbit, and I played the Inzector deck. And it really helped me understand how to play the game better, and just understand the value of cards. I would always just kind of just throw cards for no reason, or just negate things for no reason, or just lance a monster to not take damage, and that was obviously wrong. So that kind of helped me develop a better understanding of how to go about playing the game competitively. I played my first YCS, which was YCS Chicago, and I really enjoyed that event. I played Inzectors. I teched Debris Dragon in to make Ancient Fairy to bring back Hornet, and then you could special summon another Inzector and keep popping cards, which, all things considered, was awful, but I thought it was cool at the time. And then you fast forward probably another year and a half or so, actually a little bit longer. The deck I really liked that I started doing well with, the first deck I topped with was Shadal's, and originally I was playing Stellar Knight, which was awful, one of the worst decks I've ever played. Shout out to Base Lolly for playing that deck. It was complete garbage. The man couldn't even attack over Shadal Dragon without accessing his extra deck. My friend Javad helped me understand that I had to play Shadal's for this ARG that was in Indianapolis. And I played a lot of good people at that tournament. The first person I played that I knew was Dalton Faustman, and I didn't think he did anything shady. I'm on pretty good terms with him now, but at the time I was like, I wonder if he cheated me, but I don't think he did anything. And he was my one loss in the tournament that helped me propel myself into the top 16. And I played him again in top 16 and I lost. And that event was the first time I actually had an interaction with Jeff. Dalton was talking to me and he referred to me as this kid, and Jeff's like, oh hey, he has a name. And I was like, oh my god, he noticed me. After the Indy ARG, I was like, man, I really want to top again. It was such a good feeling, hearing your name get called for the first time. It's incredible. Your very first top, it means a lot to you. So that was really cool. And the next weekend, or maybe a week after or so, was ARG Columbus. and I really wanted to go, but I had like no way to like get there and stay somewhere. But then my friend Nick Parada, at the time we were pretty close, and he played Shadalls too, so we were like pretty close over that. He's like, yo, just come stay at my house. Paul Cooper's gonna be there. And I was like, oh, I know Paul. And that was like cool. So we got there, and on the way, Dirk Wagner messaged me and was like, hey, you should play this Shadal Burning Abyss deck. And I was like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, just summon Vanity Fiend. It's gonna be great. It was not great. But get to the tournament, and I'm 3-0 with it, so I was feeling okay. And I got a feature match, and I'm playing against Jeff. This is the first time we ever played. It's the first time we ever had any real like interaction. And this man played a Curry Bandit that hit 4 Shadalls, and that's when I knew this man was like special, and like it was like a really cool game that we played. And I always like look back to this as like how random it had to have been to be paired up among, there was like 200 players, and we just got paired for a feature match, and that was like what initially sparked our relationship. Because after the match, Jeff tagged me in this post and was like, oh, don't worry, I still love you anyways. And I was like, that was really weird because we never really talked, but that kind of started us talking. And at the time I wasn't really out or anything, so all my friends were like, why are you talking to Jeff so much? And I was like, well, I don't know, we're just kind of good friends, and he was helping me get better at the game. And a lot of them kind of knew what was going on, but I wasn't open about it, so they just kind of left it alone. Yeah, Jeff and I had, we just kind of, we FaceTimed a lot, and we texted a lot, but we don't live in the same state. He lives in Michigan, and I live in Wisconsin, as Alex likes to say and overemphasize. But yeah, so yeah, the long distances, it was tough at first, mainly because I couldn't really go see him because I didn't want people to know that I like Guyz. But now I just don't care at all. Like I said, I wear product in my hair. Shout out to Crew. $15 for one little thing of it. It's a nice little deal. Yeah, the distance was really hard at first. We waited like a month and a half to go see each other at ARG Chicago, and every day we would like text each other like, oh, counting down. That's really gay. But we got to the event, and I still wasn't out yet, so I know we held hands under the table at dinner, and that was like really stupid and lame. And Jeff was like not feeling it, and he's like, you know, like if you can't really be open about this, I don't want to be together. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm gonna have to tell everyone. And that was like the hardest thing I had to do up until that point. Harder than playing Satellar Knights against Shadalls. Extremely difficult. But shout out to Alex again for playing a really bad deck. Yeah, and then after that happened, everything just like fell into place. Everyone was really accepting, and that was really like a really positive experience for me. Right around that point was when I started to get to write articles for AlterRealityGames, and that was like a really big thing for me. I always had like a lot of things I wanted to say about the game, about preparing for events, things that I had learned from Jeff. Like I brought up Dirk before. Dirk had a very big impact on my my career, honestly. He was always a local player, or not a local, like a regional player, and I always knew he was good, and he was like very well respected at our regionals. And I just kind of reached out to him on Duels Grounds because the man just doesn't use Facebook, or he had one, but he deactivated it. Shout out to Mike Albanese. Yeah, so I messaged him, and he sent me this like not a book, but like this very long page of information and things to do before you go to an event. And one of the biggest things was identifying the best deck and making sure your deck can beat that deck, and also not to play whatever that deck was, because it'll probably only get you to an X2 record, unless you have something that gives you an edge in the mirror. So I took that information, and I added my own little nuances to it, but I like to share information after I've used it, obviously. I think secrets are very powerful in the game. I think that if you have an edge, you should protect it. I don't think you should release it. Alex is flipping me off right now. Like this past weekend in Atlanta, I thought that mind control was really cool in the ABC mirror, and I didn't want anyone else to know, so I didn't really post anything about it or anything. And now I don't care, because like it's done and over with. But that card was like a really high impact card for the mirror match, and obviously I didn't want to play against it, so I didn't want anyone to know. So I felt that knowledge was just very powerful, and I exhibited that in several of my articles that I published. After I realized ARG was kind of just done with the whole article thing, or everyone was winding down on writing articles, there was basically, let me explain to you how the articles went about being written. So there was this like Facebook group, and it was Patrick, Frazier, and I, and then Brad from ARG and Jim were in there. And every week Jim would be like, where are the articles? You need to write more articles. And no one was really turning anything in, because there wasn't really much to talk about anymore, and there wasn't really that much motivation to write. So they just kind of started dwindling, and I realized that Jim was probably going to be done with the whole article thing. So I kind of looked around at places to go from ARG, and TheCardGuyz seemed like a really good place to land. Yeah, I messaged Kyle one night. I was at where were we? It was some like trivia night. It was at, it's gonna bother me. It wasn't Ruby Tuesday. I don't know. It was some random restaurant. But there was some like trivia thing going on, and I was really bored. I didn't know any of the answers for this stupid trivia. It was asking movie dates, and I was like, this is not my thing tonight. So I was like on Facebook, and I was like, oh, Kyle's like active. So I sent him a message inquiring about TheCardGuyz, and he responded, and with very, very positive response that indicated that there was some chance that I would be able to join. And Kyle, I believe one of the questions he asked me was like, what does it mean to represent something to you, or like what are you going to do to be like the best card guy you can be? And I was like, well, like I don't know if I referenced this earlier, but people are always kind of like talking down to me, or it's like a very like common theme that happened as I was getting better at the game, kind of like telling me like, oh, you can't do this, like you're not going to be good enough, or like you'll never like surpass like the X person that is better than you. And I always just took that as motivation and wanting to like prove people wrong, and like and currently with the situation, TheCardGuyz is like, oh, Pro Play Games is better because they have all this money and all these really big players, but I really would like to prove all these people wrong. Like, it doesn't matter how much money you have or anything, it's just like the players and the talent and like everything, that's what goes into it. But back to what Kyle wanted from me at the time, I told him that I was very dedicated, very loyal. I wanted to start a new chapter with Yu-Gi-Oh! And I had never been on a team before, or at least like a real team. There was like always like these fake teams my friends and I would like think of making, but nothing ever really happened with them. And a lot of the players on the team on TheCardGuyz at the time were friends of mine, so I felt like it'd be a pretty welcoming environment. And it ended up working out really well. I've been with them almost a year now, or maybe in a few months it'll be almost a year, but roughly a year. And everyone, as the players come and go, I think currently we have a really nice family of players. I've gotten to know. We got State in the house over here on the right. This man is a goon. We got Alex, looking weak with his cardigan and his Timbs and his jeans, but no, he's one of my friends, and it means a lot that he's on this team with me. He's making motions, and I'm not gonna respond because it's childish. You got Spoof, who's one of the greatest people I know. He's very dedicated. You got Blair over here, who's literally covered in pillows. He's snoring. We had to mute him. We had to mute his mic. But and then you got Joe Bogley on the East Coast, trying to save that hairline. It's fighting. It's dying. We got Dakota Angeloff, formerly known as Cody Angeloff, Koty. Interesting spelling for that, but no one's judging. We got new members, Calvin Tahan and Ryan Levine, also known as Brian Ravine. Calvin is retired, so I don't know what he's actually doing on TheCardGuyz, but hopefully he'll figure out that he's not playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Anymore. No, Calvin's awesome, and he gets a bad rap, so hopefully people on the YouTube comments will be nicer to him, because he's pretty awesome. We got Noah Green. He won Nat. That's about it. Last but not least, we have Cam, the man, Neil, the Shadal Overlord of the South, the man who top decked BLS to beat me in top 4 of a 1K. Not very relevant. No, Cam's really cool, and it's great to have him on the team. Testing groups are very important to having success in Yu-Gi-Oh! You really need a tight group of individuals to work on decks with. Now that, especially now more than ever, now that Dueling Network is no longer a thing. And obviously take this video down as soon as Dueling Network comes back, or any variation of that, but that probably won't happen for a long time. But yeah, I think that close testing groups are very important. It's very valuable to have someone that you can hit up whenever, and you might not see a very quick response, but having someone to, you know, just bounce ideas off of, and tell them that it's awful, or, you know, maybe that's something to consider, is really valuable. And having Jeff for that is really cool too, because he just has like such a great mind for the game. He really builds great main decks, and he has like really good ideas of like how to like create synergy with cards that you would have no idea would work together, and that's always amazing to me. But transitioning back to playtesting back at home in Wisconsin, because I can't just go to Michigan whenever I have school during the school year. So yeah, every Tuesday through Sunday basically I'm playing Yu-Gi-Oh! From like probably around like 1 to about like 7 or 8, and those are on like the weekdays. Weekends it goes longer. But I have one of my best friends, Brad Larmy. I've mentioned him a few times. We sit down and we just play, and every day we come in with an idea that we want to try, and sometimes it's really bad. Sometimes we'll have a deck and we're like, wow, this sounds really good, and we'll do this thing where we like power creep ourselves into thinking it's really bad. We did that with the Magician deck in 2015. Yeah, 2015. And we were like, damn, this deck sucks. Like, it was terrible to us at the time, and obviously it wasn't. It was good for what it was. And I was like, yeah, screw it, I'm just gonna play Burning Abyss again. And Brad played Cleafork for like his whole life. He's like, I'm just gonna play Cle again. And we went to this regional and we both got scraped by Magicians. And we were, so like that was an example of bad testing. You don't want to poke too many holes, because you don't really know how far other people are going to get when they test, like how much they're going to figure out. Because if you're like testing a lot, you might come to conclusions that would be more relevant later in the format. You kind of have to look at how the average person is going to look at a deck and be like, okay, like this is the first event, this is all legal, they're not going to know all of this, so we don't have to be siding for the third event of, you know, knowledge. That's just the first event. And that's something that we've definitely gotten better at more recently. But yeah, it's just like, it's really great to have someone to, you know, play with a lot and have that time to commit. And then it's really cool, we've had a lot of people, you know, reach out to us that we were already friends with, and they're just like, hey, you know, can I come in and test too? And sometimes we get like 4 people, but like it's really good to have like those smaller groups, because like, you know, like I've mentioned before, information is very valuable. The more people you have, the more likely you are that someone's gonna like bring it up in the wrong place and then, you know, leaked, I guess. You don't want that. So having like these smaller groups is really important, and playing with people that you consider better than you, or like on an equal level, I think is really important. Because if you're playing against someone that you consider very like lower tier than you, or like they're just not very good, it's good for them, but like for you, like you're not really getting anything out of it. At least not initially. Like you might get better returns later when that person, you know, they get better. But you know, for the present time, they're not going to really be giving you that much information that you want. You want to be playing as someone that's better than you, or at an equal level, and that's really important. As far as testing with Jeff goes, that's always kind of interesting. We usually start by playing like 10 game ones, and then we'll go like of someone going first. So like I'll go first for 10 games, and then he'll go first for 10 games, and then we'll like keep score of like how that went, and then we'll be like, oh, what cards sucked or what cards were good, and then we'll like, you know, change things up, you know, minorly. And sometimes we'll have like a very quick reaction of, oh, we definitely don't want 3 of this in the deck, and we'll change that and we'll adjust it on like the data. But and then you get to like post-side games, and that's when like it becomes a lot more difficult to pinpoint the cards that are like good, because like when you're testing side deck cards, you're not always drawing them. So when I go to Michigan, my friend Marjenko and I, we always, like, if it's a 3 of side deck card and you're not drawing it, we just like start it in your hand. So like him and I tested Ghost Ogre for the Pendulum Mirror for ARG Detroit, which I ended up getting top 16 at. And we were like, okay, well, how good is this card going first? And we weren't drawing it, so we were like, we're just wasting our time. So we just would like add it to our hand and have 4 other cards. And just like, okay, how good is this going first? And it was really good going first, and oddly not very good going second. And that's just, you know, what like the results showed us. But yeah, like I said, I think that always having your side deck cards in your opening hand when you're like testing sided is really important to understanding how impactful they are. And it saves you a lot of time, because like I said, you know, if you're not drawing them, like you're just playing game 1 still basically, or your opponent is seeing their cards and you're not. And then transitioning into another event that I tested a lot for with Marjenko in particular. This is an event that Jeff was playing Shadalls, and I was like, I cannot play this deck. Like, Nekroz is legal. Like, you're crazy. Like I could Trishula people. This is nonsense. But yeah, Marjenko and I, we played a lot at Voltage. I had like, I think I was on like spring breakers, or no, it was like right when school got out. And I went to Michigan like 2 weeks before this YCS, and we built this Nekroz deck, and it was okay. There wasn't really anything special about it at first. We both ended up topping this regional, the Michigan regional, and then the week of the YCS we're like, okay, like, let's look at this regional data and figure out, like, you know, what we can do to build an edge for this YCS. And we noticed that a lot of people were just like taking damage in the mirror because there was no Gungnir in the deck, like, anywhere. No one was playing it because it was just considered not very good. And we're like, well, if they're just taking damage, like they take damage once from like a Valkyris or something, and then you just summon Gungnir and then kill them on the next turn. And since no one was like respecting the card, it was just free. And that turned out to be the greatest thing I've ever done. Going into YCS Columbus, I did not lose a Nekroz mirror until top 8, and I still don't even consider that a loss, but I'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, the whole point was like, just Gungnir was like really great too against Cleefort. Like, obviously, like, you had Exciton and you had, like, you know, Book of Moon with Exciton, or, you know, whatever, like MST to deal with that. And I think we used Fire and Ice Hand too, because they were just really flexible at the time. But you know, just having those outs for just about anything was really nice. And another card we used that wasn't super conventional at the time was Decisive Armor. It was kind of considered a brick, and so was Gungnir. And the fact that we played both in the same deck probably didn't look very correct, but they were just these really small decisions that went a long way. And the deck was just so consistent that, like, we didn't really think it would matter, and it really didn't in the grand scheme of things. One of the coolest things with Decisive Armor that we would do that, for some reason, I don't really feel like a lot of people did, was you'd like play Cycle, and you would chain your Decisive Armor on your Unicorn, and then you'd bring your Decisive Armor back, and it was just 8,000 with a Geo on board, and that was just really cool. And when I found these like minor combos, or like the more complex ones, I would just write them down in this book, or not a book, but like a Word document that eventually just turned into this book. And that was published on ARG's site as the Nekroz Survival Guide or something. And there's a whole bunch of like crazy combos out there, and Alex is just dying over there. But yeah, that was really cool. But transitioning into top 8 at that YCS against TJ Kinsley, I hit him with Gungnir game 1, and that was just broken as expected. In game 2, we were like, hey man, like, it's side on Vanity's Emptiness, and he was like, yeah, sure. And then this particular judge, who will not be named, came up and was like, oh, we're gonna do a random deck check. I was like, okay, sure. And this particular judge packed our decks up and, you know, put everything back and came back, and she was like, Max, you have a extra card in your deck. And I was like, okay, well, what card is it? She's like, well, it's Vanity's Emptiness. I'm like, well, that's impossible, because that should be sided out. And she was like, well, it was face up, so I put it with the rest of your cards. And I was like, you put it with the rest of my cards, but it wasn't supposed to. She was like, well, technically it was supposed to be there. So I don't know, I guess my deck was manipulated. The TJ's was face down, so nothing happened to him. So I ended up getting the game loss, and game 3, it just wasn't great. Yeah, I had him under Shared Ride and Maxi, and he just killed me, so that really sucked. But overall, it was a really great tournament experience, and it was like the first YCS I topped, so it meant a lot to me. And it also was like the first event that I really tested a lot, and I felt like great about my deck going into the event prematurely. Like I just like felt like I was going to top. If I could give any piece of advice to a aspiring duelist, it would have to be to never look at your opening hand when it's not great and just think that you've lost the game. I think that that is a very common thing that happens with people. Even it still happens to me, and I've seen it happen to very good players. It's really hard to kind of just not get frustrated when your hand isn't good. But I think that trying to make the most out of the cards you're dealt is really like important, because you know, if you have tested a lot, you're gonna know like the full extent of like what your cards are capable of. So you should be able to you know, analyze the situation and be like, you know, like I probably won't win, but like let's just kind of try to learn from this and like figure out what the most optimal play is. You know, when my hand isn't very good, and sometimes like you'd be surprised like what happens. Like recently I played a regional, and there was like a game that I just definitely shouldn't have won. It was like I was playing the ABC deck, and all I could do was like set a C because I had 5 of them in my hand, and just set a solemn, and the guy just like drooled all over himself and through the game somehow. I just like couldn't believe it. And it's just like stuff like that where like people like get like when they know your hand is bad, and they'll just get stupid with their plays. Like they'll just get really greedy because they think that they've won, and then just like something really small can go a long way. So like, you know, just try to remain calm when your hand isn't very good. I think that's like a really important thing that I've learned.
You go for it.
This has been Max Reynolds. This is for my grandkids, but that probably won't happen because it's not possible, all things considered, because you know, I wear product in my hair. I can't wear hats because I don't want my hair to get messed up because I'm gay. Bling blow.